ご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Hey guys, Kakarot197 again. This time with a review of the 1/100 scale Master Grade Force Impulse Gundam from the Gundam Seed Destiny anime series. And this model kit has been provided to me by my favorite online hobby store, Hobbylink Japan. Links to buy one in the description down below. And the first thing that struck me about this model kit is how the proportions are very stretched and kinda spiky. As a result, having it in a neutral standing position just doesn't do it justice. Of course, that's not to say that this thing doesn't look great already as is. Just as the proportions, the detailing is also a big departure from the anime line art, and really hits that fine balance between extra master grade detail and too much detail. The seam lines in general are also really good, with most of them hidden, which makes the arms stand out that much more. Not only do we get an ugly nub mark smack dab in the middle, but we also get an obvious molding line. And as you can tell by my panel line, the two halves didn't quite line up during the molding process either. Fortunately, this will be much less visible once you hook up some weapons. When it comes to the stickers, we only need the bare minimum: eye sticker, front camera, and back camera. And behind all three of them is the same clear piece, not only making them really easy to paint if you want to, but you could even try hooking up your own LED. Which means that all that's left for you to do is to painstakingly paint the inside of this thruster grill red. If you really want to, that is. And once you slap on your choice of peel-off marking stickers or rub transfers, this thing is basically perfect to be displayed out of the box. And since this machine was piloted by both Shin and Luna Maria, you can customize it as either one, or go crazy and make Luna Maria a member of Faith. Onto the weapons and accessories, starting with what's already on the machine, we get two 20mm Seawiz guns on the chest, and when we open up these hatches on the side skirts, we get a folding razor anti-armor knife in each. And as the name suggests, it folds open. There is one problem with these knives though. You see, the cool thing with both the articulated and the fixed hands is that they come with pegs to hold on to the weapons, but the knives have no holes. So unless you cut away the pegs, he's going to be holding on to these knives a bit awkwardly. But you can still make him look good as is. Quickly moving on to the Vajra beam sabers that are mounted very securely onto the backpack. They're nicely detailed and come with two very good looking beam sabers. Rather than solid pink, they have a bit of a sparkle to them, and they're also meant to be slightly bent. Again, this is very good for dynamic poses. But if you prefer these standard master grade beam saber blades, fear not, you can also use them, or vice versa if you want to. And unlike the knives, these do peg into the hands. Then the final weapon for the Force Impulse's normal arsenal is the high energy beam rifle. Its construction is very simple, basically two halves slapped together with a seam line running through the middle. But it is color accurate, and we also get a moving scope and a moving handle, which even slides forward and backwards. This is really one of those features that I never knew I wanted, but now that I've seen it, I want more model kits with this, because it really helps a lot with posing. And just as with the beam sabers, it simply pegs into either one of the hands for a very solid connection. And if you don't want to use it, you can simply store it onto the back skirt. Then for defensive purposes, we get the sliding shield with some really cool extra detailing. It will require these two areas to be painted gray, but that's fine. It can rotate around and also has a hinge so that the shield can be mounted on the other side of the arm. And while the handle moves, it cannot go up and down like some other shields. But with so many moving pieces already, maybe that's for the best. But there is still one more weapon included, an Excalibur anti-ship laser sword. And just as with the beam sabers, it has a kind of sparkling pink beam effect part that very nicely attaches to the sword. And once you slide on the second effect part on the tip, your Impulse has everything he needs to take on to freedom. But while he has no problems holding on to the sword with both hands, holding it with one hand is a bit rough on the wrist. One important thing to mention here is that this is not the same Excalibur as we get with the Sword Impulse. This one is less detailed, static, and requires the handle to be painted black. And there are still some more cool accessories that we get. 2 small 1/100 scale figures of the pilots, Shin, Asuka, and Lunamaria Hawk, and last but not least, if you remove the core Splendor, you can attach this piece to make him compatible with Striker packs, because why not? The manual gives the IWSP as an example, but since I haven't built mine yet, I'm using the remastered Ale Striker pack instead. And now that he's the perfect Guess This Gundam for a Gunpla group on Facebook, let's strip him down completely and have a look at the inside. Here we are treated to a very nice looking 2.0 era inner frame. And it isn't just for show. In addition to the detailing, it offers great flexibility with some cool gimmicks to boot. The head is on a hinge and ball joint combo, just be careful when turning it around. The shoulders go forwards and backwards a bit, but upwards really well once you slide them out. They'll also rotate around, and the arms rotate around below the shoulder. The elbows are double jointed with a cool separation gimmick, and the hands are on the usual ball joints, but now we also get an extra hinge. Another cool feature is that every finger is on its own ball joint, but the bottom 3 fingers are molded together but can be separated. The waist is also on a ball joint, and if you're careful, it will rotate around all the way. And there are even more ball joints on both the front and back skirts, but fortunately not on the hips. Those are on pegs. Compared to the perfect forwards and backwards movement, the outwards movement is a bit less, but still good. The legs also rotate around all the way and bend at the knees at 2 joints with some great armor separation on both the upper legs and the knees. The thrusters on the back of the legs also move, and then for the feet we get a hinge and ball joint combo for a lot of posing freedom. And when we move the ankle guard out of the way, we can see that piston in action. It did pop out once when I was posing it for the pictures, but of course it couldn't be replicated on camera. And even the backpack of this thing has a bunch of moving parts. The whole thing goes up and down a bit, these wings flap, these wings also flap, and if you pull them out, you can put them in stored mode. Which is another one of those features I never knew I wanted, but I really like it. Then the bottom thrusters are on ball joints, and there is an extra hinge, again, because why not? And finally, while it does have an opening cockpit, you will only see a gray piece when you do open it. Also, something that you might have seen during this review is that the top piece of the hatch is extremely loose. But I also have the Master Grade Sword Impulse, and on that one, it's not an issue at all. So, good luck. But hey, nothing a bit of glue won't fix. So overall, the articulation is still perfectly serviceable today, as you were also able to tell during the action shots. Really, the only 2 improvements that I could think of are more shoulder movement and more waist movement. And since the latter is hindered by the design of the mobile suit itself, I think that says a lot about how good this thing still is. And for those really cool action poses, we get a really cool action-based connector. The cool thing is that you can even store the plug that you have to remove inside of it so that you don't lose it. And then the last thing to look at, the transformation. Roll that footage. And overall, for the Impulse's transformation, I think this is basically perfect. The transformation was very straightforward, and once everything went into place, it kinda locks in place as well, giving it a very secure feel. But now you have to decide. Will you use the 4 action-based adapters to display all of the pieces flying, provided that you have 4 Master Grade compatible action bases, or will you use the landing gear on all of the parts and display them on the ground? And for the 4 silhouette, you even get an extra piece that you can put it on, which is pretty cool if you want to make a hangar diorama. Also, don't forget to paint the wings of the silhouette fighter white and this piece of the nose black, in addition to the core Splendor's nose, wings, canopy, intakes, and missiles that are hollow at the bottom and discarded anyways during transformation. Personally, I'm just going to keep him as the Impulse Gundam in one piece. So, as always, the inevitable question is, do you want to buy this? And for 4,500 yen, the only reason I can think of not to buy this is the Master Grade Sword Impulse, which I'll also have linked down below. While the Force Impulse Gundam is kind of a generic Gundam like many others, what really makes this thing stand out are the proportions. They perfectly lend themselves to impressive looking action poses, and combine that with cool extras like the extra Excalibur to recreate the Freedom Fight and Striker Pack compatibility, and you've got an amazing bundle of fun. Honestly, even for people who aren't a fan of Gundam Seed Destiny or the pilots of the Impulse Gundam, you might want to give this thing a shot. It really is just that nice. But now specifically for the people who are thinking about buying a Force Impulse model. You've got this thing, you've got the high-grade Cosmic Era, and you've got some high grades that we'll try to forget about. The fun thing is, neither of these is the definitive Force Impulse. For example, the high-grade Cosmic Era does have an extra waist joint, giving it better articulation, but it sacrificed the dockable core Splendor to do so. Then the Master Grade comes with an extra Excalibur sword for the Freedom Fight, but in high-grade form, you can get the P Bandai Sword Impulse that comes with the stabbed abdomen of the Freedom effect part to recreate the scene more easily. And then there's the looks that both deviate from the anime line art but in their own distinctive way. So it really is give and take on both fronts. And soon this comparison is going to get even more difficult because we'll get the real grade, which will probably also come with its own good and bad things. And let's wrap up this video with a few more size comparisons. First of all, here he is next to the Ailstrike Gundam Remastered version. And then finally, here he is next to Lunamaria's Gunner Zaku Warrior and Athron's Savior Gundam. And that's all for this review, brought to you by Hobbylink Japan. As always, a big thank you to the Patreon supporters. I hope all of you watching have a great day, and I'll see you all next time.